Tonight in this ballroom, we have just so many leaders, and I know that we did not call out all of the city officials, every CEO, alderman, just so many leaders. But know that you are important to us. Know that we appreciate you being here. It's an honor to have this room full of really incredible leaders. This is a celebration of progress for diversity and inclusion. And I want to take a moment to thank Kip Kelly and John Roback, the chairman and vice chairman of the board, and the entire CU board for their leadership. And I want to thank all of the board members, present and past, because they granted me the privilege of leading this organization. As many of you know, each year I take time to reflect on the work of Dr. King. It's important because the work of this organization really rests on his legacy. We rose out of the ashes left by the riots following his assassination. And it's important to ground our work in his pursuit of economic and social justice. When I revisit his words, I always find new relevance. In 1966, Dr. King discussed the Black Power movement, and he said, "We've got to see that a riot is the language of the unheard." I was struck by that phrase, the language of the unheard. I've been with you, the members and supporters of Chicago United, for 16 years, and in that time, I've been learning to speak the language of the unheard. In fact, one of my proudest moments was to be presented with an honorary doctorate in social justice from Roosevelt University. It meant to me that I was successful in raising my voice for those who were not being heard. Tonight, when you leave this room, I hope you are even more emboldened to find and raise your voice for those yet unheard. Because we cannot afford to be unheard in our quest for social justice. That quest is the core of our efforts towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've been with you in moments of celebration, as together we worked to advance the utilization of minority-owned firms in Chicago, and we worked to increase diversity on boards and in executive leadership. I felt your disappointment when goals were not met, but we were determined to try to move forward, and we did it again. We just tried again. In those celebrations and the moments of challenge, I have seen a steady march towards people learning to listen to each other, to honor differences, to respect identities, and to speak with civility. In doing so, you have fostered the ability to hear the authentic voices in your companies, to include the ideas of the outspoken, the introverted, the different, all to the benefit of everyone in your firms. 3 years ago, when I stood at this podium, I told you I was afraid of the deep divide in this country. And it's even deeper now than when I first uttered those words. And I still have fears. I'm afraid that even in 2019, we will never fully understand the movement, Black Lives Matter, if we can accept a black man roped and walked through the streets of Galveston behind a sheriff on horseback. I'm personally afraid because the slaughter in El Paso was incited by the characterization of Mexicans and even those who share my Mexican heritage as rapists and criminals. I'm afraid for Black and brown people seeking refuge and opportunity, only to have families cruelly separated and detained in what can rightly be called concentration camps. And I'm afraid for those who relive their losses every time they return to worship, whether it's at the Tree of Life Synagogue, the Oak Creek Sikh Temple, or Mother Emanuel AME. Yet we at Chicago United find a way to make a safe place for our colleagues, our employees, our customers, and the stranger. We find a way to hear their voices. That is why I remain fiercely optimistic, and I see a great future for this organization and this city, because you are leaders of vast organizations. Chicago United members employ more than 4 million people. 4 million people who depend on us to use the power of our collective voice. In leading 4 million people, you address some of the most complex challenges in the world. You drive new solutions in healthcare, agriculture, finance, energy, transportation, and technology. So I wonder, how do we, the advocates for justice and equity, address the challenge of growing acts of hate and the speech that drives it? I wonder, what will it take for us to lift our voices? Sometimes I wonder, aren't we smart enough to have capitalism without cruelty? Aren't we smart enough to have tax breaks without breaking families? Aren't we smart enough to open dialogue to advance fair and equal treatment of our brothers and sisters without bombarding each other with hurtful words until we're numb? I know the people in this room. I've worked side by side with you. We are smart enough, and we need to find solutions large and small. And we can lead, sometimes with just simple actions. Over the last 16 years, I've come to you with many requests, and you still actually answer the phone even when you know it's me calling. So this is my final ask. At least I think it is, because you never know, I might come up with another one. But this is my final ask. I ask you to begin the process with self-reflection. When you hear hurtful speech from those who hold a public platform, ask yourself, if I heard that in my office, would I subject my colleagues to that language? Would I empower the HR department to take decisive action? If you hear language that you wouldn't tolerate in your office, don't tolerate it in the public discourse. Hold your support. Hold your personal and advertising dollars back from those who exercise hate speech. Call elected and appointed officials and even media personalities and tell them which policies you support. That's great. But tell them we're not going to do that at the price of hateful speech and the actions that they inspire. If you endorse or even accept hurtful language and actions, how will your employees and colleagues trust your commitment to inclusion? We need to make it clear we're not going to participate in deepening the divide. I want you to take a moment and look at the person on either side of you. Okay, just do it. Take a look, right? Don't you want that person treated with dignity? That's what we want for everyone. We want everyone treated with dignity. You have a voice and you hold the faith of 4 million employees and their families. I believe the people in this room represent the best America has to offer, and I know there are many more like us. If we lead boldly, we will be part of a legacy that leaves our city, our state, and our nation stronger, because you, Chicago United, found your voice and raised it for those who are still unheard. So I thank you one last time to those who have contributed to this organization, to those I've laughed with, to those I've planned with, those I've met with, and especially to the CU teams I've worked with. I thank you for the privilege of leading this truly great organization. Thank you.